Hei folkens, velkommen til Lorens reagerer på YouTube. I dag skal jeg se på en geowizard channel hvor han prøver å gå en rett linje over Norge. Jeg vet ikke om han kommer forbi Kristiansund, men jeg tror jeg skal gå til Bergen, så ja, jeg får se hvordan lyden blir. Jeg tror det hører meg ganske bra. Så det her er på PC-en, så det kommer tak på min skole-PC, så da start. Først, Tore-ramma.
Compelling, understandable writing that makes an impact on your reader. Much better. Are you ready to give it a try? Installation is simple and free. Visit grammarly.com today.
Jeg må fullskjerm, og så er det så... Ja, så kutte... Jeg er spent. Jeg har ventet på Mission Across Norway så lenge nå at, ja, her kommer det. Jeg har ventet så lenge.
Welcome back everyone to the GeoWizard channel, the home of the mischievous adventure, where today we see the return of the infamous straight line mission. A relentless, often grueling form of expedition in which the subject has to walk, swim, kayak, sneak, slide, and negotiate their way from A to B in a scrupulously straight line, overcoming any obstacle that may get in his or her way.
This is suicide!
With 2 straight line mission attempts across Wales under my belt, clocking in at just over 50 miles and at least a couple of dozen hairy situations, I'm now fairly experienced at my trade. The only problem is, I haven't actually succeeded yet. In Wales 1, a mixture of poor planning, bad weather and no phone signal forced me off the perilous Glasgow mountain, and a serious health issue for Welsh Greg cut our gallant second effort to cross Wales heartbreakingly short, something we immediately decided to rectify by penciling in Scotland 2021. But I couldn't wait that long. After 2 failures, I was hungrier than ever to prove to the world and to myself that I can cross a country in a straight line. So, one day in late July, I decided that I was going to travel to one of the only countries in Europe that I think is physically possible to cross in a straight line in the summer. Norway. I know what you're thinking. Norway is Wales on steroids. What makes you think you can conquer Norway if you can't even manage Wales? Well, firstly, I was confident that I'd actually discovered a route across Norway that was potentially doable and not completely lethal. And secondly, I was going to study, survey and scrutinise this unknown terrain so meticulously that not only would I have a good chance of not dying, but a real chance at success. As well as a perfectly plotted line, I would need a few other things to slot into place for this ambitious plan to work. There was a kayak, paddle and life jacket waiting for me in Trondheim thanks to long-time fan Marius. And I did have a readily available sidekick in Verity, who I would need to help me transport the kayak around the remote, inaccessible landscape, as well as potentially call the emergency services if I didn't show up at the allotted time. All I needed now was for the weather to improve, mainly to prevent the Norwegian version of this from happening, and for the United Kingdom to remain green on this map of countries who are currently allowed to visit Norway. With my survival trip with Ben also looming, by the 7th of August I found myself with a worryingly small window of opportunity. But then, some pretty pictures of the sun appeared on a Norwegian internet website, and 2 days later we were on a pretty expensive flight to Norway. Now, that good weather up at the start point wasn't going to last forever. Rain was set to return on the Thursday, so we had to get up there and beat it. After landing in Amsterdam at 6 PM on the 10th of August, it was straight onto our connecting flight to Trondheim.
Get in. There it is!
At the airport, we checked into a hotel at 11:30 p.m. with a view to get up super early, get the 8 a.m. train into Trondheim, collect the rental car, meet Marius, strap the kayak on, and drive 7 hours up the E6 to the start point, 40 miles south of the Arctic Circle. If we could get there by about 3 or 4 p.m. on the Tuesday, we could scout out the area, transport the kayak to the ideal position on the lake, and find a good spot to camp ready for the morning so that I could be well on my way before Thursday's rain came in. What could go wrong? Well, firstly, en route to Trondheim, I stepped off the train at the wrong station to see where we were, only for the train to swiftly pull away, leaving me stranded in nearby Liangen. How you doing?
Nothing.
Got a little lost. But in the end, it didn't even matter, as the car rental place had delayed the pickup time until midday, meaning by the time we'd driven across town to meet Marius, who secured his sturdy camouflage kayak onto our roof with expert precision.
This is a trick I learned in the special forces.
It was almost 2 p.m. Yeah, I'm gonna need it. Okay, that's done. To the camping shop. As if we haven't wasted enough time already. Oh god.
Oh god.
So the 7-hour drive was underway, and it was going to be a long one for Verity.
Stop.
That is epic. The main thing I'm nervous about is just how steep are some of the bits gonna be, some of the gradients. Hopefully I've got my calculations right. And if I have, and I just sail through, not sail through, that would be boring, but if I get through it without any complications, I will be absolutely over the moon. I'll be the happiest man on earth. But if I fail and it's just deathly drops everywhere, not only is it going to be dangerous, but I'm just going to be devastated. As we entered northern Norway, the driving got even more spectacular.
Wow.
But so did our need to eat, and stopping to do so meant that by the time we reached the stunning Ranfjord just south of Mo i Rana, what little darkness they get up there was slowly but surely creeping in. And by the time it was time to go off-road, it was pretty dark.
Oh, that's good.
God. That was mental. That's a sign of things to come. I'm pretty scared. But 200 meters down the road, we were faced with this. Slight issue.
Oh god.
That's blocked off. We had no idea why, but evidently someone didn't want any cars travelling any further down this track. Luckily, it did look like there was another very long way around to the lake, so slightly spooked out and pretty concerned for the well-being of this trip, we headed for it. Right, let's hope to God we can get to the lake this way. We would have to wait until the morning to find out whether there was actually a path that led from the small gravel car park we were aiming for, presumably used by the occasional resident of these remote cabins, down to the eastern part of the lake. Right now, we'd be glad just to make it to the car park. Okay, we've managed to find the road that leads to the reservoir, but it says private road, which is not good because it means we're not welcome here in some way or another. Over 2 miles of narrow, winding track later, we did reach the car park, only to discover that it was almost completely full of cars.
This is really creepy.
Slightly freaked out but in need of sleep, we pulled up under the now drizzling clouds, a bit deflated. How's that for a day's work? Not the best situation we're in now. It all seems pretty inaccessible and private around here. I don't know. Maybe
But
it's
like,
just the fact that it's night that we're just stressing out, but we'll see how we are in the morning. Tomorrow's a new day. This is the low. Hopefully tomorrow the rain stops and we'll be somehow feeling high. See you there.
Så kommer det kramake da.
Bli latterlig fornøyd med ditt neste kjøp. Prisjakt. Samling mer enn bare prisen.
In the morning, an information placard reassured us that there was indeed a path that led through the flat area of land between these two hills and straight down to the lake. So, pretty confident that there was no way plan A could fail, we packed up the gear, whisked the kayak down and prepared ourselves for a bit of a slog. Confident now that we weren't treading on anybody's toes by being here and that the weather hadn't taken a turn for the worst, I felt like I could actually relax and soak up this alien landscape, despite the tennis elbow. Wonder if they're edible. You right back there, darling?
just about.
Verity struggled, but frequent stops and a bit of dragging from me got us through. Right past these confusingly remote cabins and down to the lake shore. Or at least, where it used to be. Yep, that lake is bone dry. Well, this part of it is anyway.
Sure.
I don't know what problems that's going to pose. Maybe I can just walk across that bit? Nah, there'll be some water, won't there?
Yeah.
Oh,
The
they
question
can
is,
do
how easy
insure.
will it be to get in and out of the kayak if it's marshy? Only one way to find out. On a closer inspection, there was an actual body of water further south in the lake bed. But whether I'd be crossing it on my way down from my start point on the mountainside was unclear. I was more concerned with how this massive drop in the water level might affect proceedings a bit further round the corner. Oh god, yeah, no. The answer was quite drastically. Pretty much this whole first stretch of water was now land. But more detrimentally, this steep peninsula here, which Verity was originally going to meet me at and paddle around whilst I climbed over, was now surrounded by land. A quick scout out confirmed that this whole eastern section of the lake was now entirely cut off from the main part, making that plan impossible. Instead, we would have to lug the kayak over the peninsula and all the newly formed land that surrounded it, which no doubt was going to be very difficult and very time consuming. The only upside was that I didn't kayak 6 miles around the long way, only to find that my passage was completely blocked off. But we still had a long day ahead of us, and with that in mind, we returned to the kayak, got some much needed food down our necks, and I set sail for the start point. How we doing, everyone? Hope we've been keeping well. Look at this. That is Norway. Isn't it stunning? And that is Sweden. In fact, I'm currently standing on Swedish ground. Over here is the border somewhere. Right here, right on top of these rather lethal looking mushrooms, which hopefully isn't a bad omen. You know the score. I intend to walk that way in a completely straight line, come what may, in an attempt to cross the breathtaking, dramatic scenery that makes up Norway's terrain in a completely straight line. Now this time, we're not going to have farmers, we're not going to have barbed wire fences, we're not going to have hedges. But what we are going to have is a huge lake, which I'm going to have to paddle my way across, a rather steep looking dam, and then a series of steep wooded mountainsides and ravines packed with a plethora of unknown species and plants for me to traipse my way through before finally, hopefully in one piece, descending the final mountain into the village of Hauknes and down to the Mo i Rana fjord. It's going to be sketchy at times. I'm going to need to be on my most diligent, smartest behaviour. There's going to be some steep drops that I'm going to need to watch out for, and if it's too unsafe, I'm going to have to go round them. But hopefully, if my calculations are correct, by no more than 25 meters. Should we do this? Let's do it. Okay, there we are, bang on our start point. Let's go. Straight away, it's rocks, big boulders, slabs, things I'm gonna have to climb up and down. And a massive sheet of snow. Would you look at that? Yeah, this is going to be wildly different to the Wales trips, just so you know. Worlds apart. Time to step on some snow in August. Look at that. That's definitely a first. On we go. Up the next little hillside. And up here, we should have spectacular views of the line ahead. Look at this. Oh my goodness. That's where we're heading. Straight down the arrow of that lake to the dam. There's a fair bit to do before we reach that first lake and a fair few meters to descend. So let's keep our eye on the ball. We could see bears out here. You never know, that would be really cool. And our first little drop, first of many, I presume. And with stuff like this, I can just kind of shimmy my way down. Whoop! So far, I'd managed to stick to the line to the absolute meter by constantly monitoring the GPS. But it soon became clear how stupid I'd have to be to try and continue in that fashion. That looks slippy. Oh, goodness. Oh. Oh. And I'm dead. Do you know what I mean? I've got to be careful today. It is very easy for me to fall off a cliff on this route that I've picked. It is the best route, I think, across Norway. But as you can see, I mean, look at the place. It's never going to be straightforward. 50 yards later, I found myself faced with a couple of obstacles that were on a slightly larger scale. It's not great. Nothing that promised to send me plummeting to my death, but definitely high enough to break an ankle and wide enough to deter me from going around them. There we go. I got myself over these ones eventually, but there would be much bigger things to come, and I would need to choose my routes very wisely. For now though, at least, the rock climbing was over. Oh God. Wow. Bit of forest to do, and then it's over that swampy, semi-dried out lake bed, which I can tell you from the journey up here is going to be good fun. Beautiful smell in these woods of the various plants and mushrooms and herbs and flowers that are just flourishing in these long summer days. It's really, really new to me. Right, now I can tell you from the journey up here that this is boggy. It's kind of worryingly deep at times. Oh shit. Oh no. That's not good. Oh, fuck, I'm stuck. It's pulling me in. That is dodgy. Anyway, that might be the muddiest bit, but it's not the wettest. You'll see what I mean in a sec. I went round it before, but there's no avoiding it this time. Here it is. The eagle-eyed among you may have seen it from up there, snaking its way through this boggy, sedimenty ground. Oh man, there's no, yeah. There's the mud. Shit. There's the mud, old boy. Oh goodness, new shoes as well. Hey, I've got some new shoes on and I've ruined them straight away. Okay, how do we do this, man? How do we do this? Okay, I'm just gonna chuck my bag over, I think, and just go for it. Can I chuck my bag that far? Let's hope so. God, just about. Am I going to get stuck here? Okay, I've chucked my jacket over as well. GPS system's going over. Can I really do this? I honestly don't know if I can. I might get stuck. Look at
Se alle Black Week-tilbudene på ice.no.
that. I'm stuck. Am I stuck? Okay, this is going over. Okay, that one's out.
Oh, vänta nu.
This is so deep, man. I don't know, I've always had this worry about sinking so deep that you just, you know, it swallows you up. I guess it's from stories of quicksand. I mean, this is deep. Shit. Okay, it's actually a hard edge. It's just the uncertainty. Well, there you go. It was up to my pecker. Already we've had some right old palavers. Come on. With my clothes back on and the GPS rescued, it was a quick run over this much firmer area of the lake bed. Nothing! And down to the shore. But was the kayak still there? Of course it is, you twat. Feet already soaking wet, I pushed the boat out to where the water was more than 6 inches deep. There we go, that'll do. And clambered in. I wonder if I'm better off just having it there. That is probably better, isn't it? Yeah. Right, off we go then. Back to Verity and on to the next section. There we go, I think we're away. We're floating. We're floating. Just about though. This miniature lake, later dubbed the Great Puddle, was so shallow that I easily could have walked across it, the water reaching no higher than my knees. Fuck. Nearly went in then. I honestly think if I fell in this puddle of a lake, it's more danger of me banging my head than drowning. It's honestly, I could have walked over the thing. On the bright side, the baby pool was a good place for me to get to grips with this much wider sit-on-top kayak and perfect my technique, because later on, I'd need it. No sooner had I reached maximum knottage than arrived at the only beach that I've ever wished didn't exist. There it is. First section done. The Great Puddle. Reunited with Verity, who gave me a quick brushing down, we set about transporting the kayak over to the peninsula and beyond. On the sand or mud, I could drag the kayak without damaging it. Over the rocks though,
Oh god.
we would have to carry the 30-kilogram kayak, and in doing so we ran the risk of tripping or slipping and damaging not only the kayak but ourselves.
Shit. I nearly fell.
Turns out this beach is owned by a rather hefty dog who threatened to chase me off my line. Hey. Hey.
Should I help you over this bit?
But in the end he was fairly satisfied with us heading west,
He's following the line.
where the beach gave way to this even smaller pool. This time too shallow to drown a small field mouse, let alone kayak across. Oh. Veering off to the right a bit, need to go left. Verity walked around and got lost, before rejoining me to help get the kayak over these last rocks and over this small canyon.
Oh, cheers.
Nice.
Yay.
Okay, so coming up, the aforementioned chunk of land that we've got to get this over, and it's not land like this, it's got trees, it's got little drops and boulders and cliffs. How we're going to do it is, I'm going to be keeping to the line of course, and I'm going to be dragging the kayak when I can, but when I can't, when it's a drop, Verity's going to drag it round, aren't you? That's how we're going to do it. There are houses up here, We're going very close to these summer houses, so maybe someone will say hello. Who knows? Okay. Just get this on here.
Oh my god.
As predicted, it was hard. Immediately.
This is mad.
Straight line missioning through Norway. Soon though, we were out of the Nordic jungle and up onto much flatter, roomier ground where straight away our plan could be put to the test. I need to go over this cliff now.
Right.
And you need to drag around, I think.
Okay, yeah.
The line is going over there.
So I need to drag
So
it
just
round
go
to the right.
round, yeah.
Okay.
See you around there. Hello. What's that then? Hot tub? A 100 yards to go on the peninsula, and it seemed that the line wanted to take me right past one of the summer houses. Technically I wasn't trespassing, but I think it's safe to say that anyone peering out the window picturing themselves in the wilderness well and truly had their moment ruined. It was hard to care at the time though, because up next was a fairly sharp final descent down to what looked like another endless stretch of lake bed. To reach it safely, Verity would have to lug the kayak down into this little gorge while I clambered down the rocks. Oh yeah! The plan had worked. Nice one. We could now properly wince at the gigantic boulder field that lay ahead of us. Wow, look at this. There was still a lot to do, but at least we'd successfully managed to transport the kayak over the peninsula without damaging it or ourselves. Oh, shit, I did not see that drop. Well, at least one of us had. I banged my elbow, but I think I'm alright. I would need 2 strong elbows for the dreaded kayak ahead. But for now, it was time to tackle this.
Oh no!
Wonder how many straight line missions will consist of this. Dragging a kayak through mud. Looks like I'm going to have to kayak over that island bit in the middle. First glimpse here of the lake. We're nearly there. It looks a little bit choppy, but not too bad. With Verity dragging the kayak around this last cluster of rocks, it felt like we were finally putting this alien planet-like landscape behind us. This has been a bizarre day. A bizarre day so far. A real adventure. Who would have thought a lake this big could dry up? But we're here, we're at the edge of where the lake actually starts. On the plus side, less of it for me to kayak. And there it was, the actual reservoir. A relieving sight in one way, as it marked the end of the mission across Mars, but in other ways a dreaded sight. An endless horizon of oncoming waves. Above them, a relentless rain-spattered headwind which sent Vernwy-esque pangs of angst coursing through my veins. I'm not looking forward to this. Despite the receded shoreline, I still had well over 5 miles to paddle, at points almost a mile from the nearest shoreline. But it would be no picnic for Verity either. She'd have to navigate her way back across Jupiter and all the way back to the car before driving 9 miles round to the dam at the far end of the reservoir, if the road wasn't blocked off. Overall though, not only was I satisfied with how close I'd kept to the line thus far, but I was satisfied that what we both had to do next was doable and fairly hazard-free. However, this is me we're talking about here, and sure enough, I'd failed to check one crucial thing. Marius's bolt. A vital chunk of metal used to plug a 7mm hole in the back of the kayak. Make sure you screw this in, he warned us before we set off. I forgot once and the inside of the boat slowly filled up with water and I almost sank.
That'll all be gone when we get back.
Was I destined for a similar situation? Tune into part 2 to find out.
Ah.